Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome out to West Valley Center. We have a special guest today joining us, and it's lovely. You'll see her in just a minute. So get ready. We're going to start this off with "This Is the Day," and please rise to join in the spirit.
This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. Sing that with us. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is a day to be seized, a day I can feel my spirit set free. Yes, this is the day. It's time to fly higher and higher up in the sky. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it.
Good morning, good morning. Welcome to the West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. My name is Sue Witter. I'm one of the practitioners here and a ministerial intern. And I am grateful that you have taken time out of your busy day to come and stop and slow down and honor the truth of who you are and to allow your hearts and your minds to be expanded and lifted. So we are very, very grateful that you are here. And it's a very exciting Sunday. You don't know the gift that we have of sound healing that's going to take place during the meditation as well as at 11:30 after the service. There's a sound healing today, and you will absolutely have the experience of it here during the meditation. It is physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually altering. It's extraordinary. So thank you for being here and doing this with us. And so after the service, it will be 11:30, and the love offering is, I believe, 25? 25? Okay. And so please join us. It will be an experience that is worth every moment, I promise. We have several other things happening. As always, we have restarted the 11 a.m. Wednesday meditation, so please join us if you're near and would like to participate in that. And exciting news is that Gourmets for God is beginning. We are getting ready. So start thinking now about what it is that you want to be able to contribute to that fun, exciting event. And there'll be more information on its way. And then we have 3 classes that are starting. Reverend Karen will do the Introduction to Science of Mind September 6th between 1:30 and 3. It's a free preview. And then starting the 13th of September is the Foundations class. And that's 8 weeks and also at 1:30. Kay Fontana and I will be teaching an evening class starting the 27th of September called Regaining Your Wholeness. And I'm really looking forward to that. It's a new class for us to have here, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So please think about joining all 3 of those classes, because that's one of the great parts. Now, speaking to someone who just spent the whole weekend in a class, but it's really an extraordinary way to deepen and strengthen your spiritual understanding if you take time out to take classes. So with that, those are our announcements, and I will say just allow yourself now to take a deep breath and go within and be centered in this extraordinary healing experience for our meditation.
And I choose to call this essence God. God is all there is. God is all there is, ever has been, and ever will be. And we are each an individualized part of this whole, of this essence. And as we come together today for this special, perfect idea in the mind of God, we celebrate, we rejoice, we learn, we grow, and we share. And I say a word of blessing for the Bradfords, for their beautiful music that always binds us together, that reaches our hearts, that brings us joy. And I say a word of blessing for Reverend Clyde and his message today that I know is divinely inspired, that will teach us that and give us tools that we can take forth and teach others. And I just know this is absolutely perfect, and I just release this into the law knowing that it is already done. And together we say, and so it is. So I'm reading today again from Your Invisible Power. I just love this book, man. It's like the science of mind in less than 100 pages. It's kind of cool. God, the self-evident truth within you. It is self-evident that we live. As Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. This might be called an axiom of reason whereby one perceives that he exists. An axiom of reason is a truth so self-evident, so universally experienced, so immediately known to the mind that reason cannot deny its existence. That there are such final truths no one doubts. We wish to establish our identity in the universe, the limitless possibility of self-expression and the certainty of eternal unfoldment. We wish to establish identity, individuality, unity, and completion. Our first self-evident proposition is that the truth is that which is. We are using truth in the sense of its absolute meaning, not some truth or a truth, but the truth, the ultimate reality. The truth being that which is must include all that was, is, or ever shall be. And being that which is, and being all that is, there can be nothing unlike it, different from it, nor opposed to it. Contemplate that for a moment. And so it is.
Ready? When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light you'll see, no, I won't be afraid. No, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me. So darling, stand by me. Oh, won't you stand by me? Oh, stand by me, stand by me.
And if the sky we look upon should tumble and fall, and the mountains should crumble to the sea, I won't cry, no, I won't shed a tear, just as long as you stand
darling, stand by me. Oh, won't you stand by me? Oh, stand now. Stand by me. Stand by me.
So darling, darling, stand by me.
Oh, won't you stand by me? Oh, stand now. Stand by me. Stand by me.
Whenever you're in trouble, won't you
Stand by me. Oh, won't you stand by me? Oh, stand. Stand by me. Stand by me. Stand by me.
All right, thank you, Bradford. That is one of my all-time favorite songs. I love that song, so thank you again. And welcome, everyone. Welcome to West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. My name is Reverend Clyde Goins. I'm the assistant minister, and Reverend Karen is out this week, and she'll be out actually for the next 2 Sundays. She's taken some time off, and we were talking about her taking off this Sunday, and I told her, well, I have a talk, but I need 2 Sundays to tell my story. So I said, why don't you take the next 2 Sundays off? So she said, okay. She didn't have a problem with that. Anyway, so, and then one other, before we get started, Bernice, I hope you enjoyed the Sam Bowling Hills, and I hope you plan to join us this, after service today for the bowls. It's a beautiful experience to allow yourself to sit there in this meditative state and hear the sounds of these bowls wash over you. So please join us after service. All right. So the title of my talk is The Two Sons. Okay, and so it's really what I'm going to be talking about today is the lessons from the prodigal son. So this parable is one of the greatest spiritual lessons in the history of religious education. Just like Jesus, many religions tell the story to explain the relationship with God, our relationship with God. So Ernest Holmes provides the metaphysical interpretations of the teachings from Jesus. And I have realized that this is now one of my favorite stories. So we spent the last probably 3 weeks or so in our Wednesday night study group. There's a section in the back of the Science of Mind textbook where Ernest Holmes is talking about different passages in the Bible, and he gives the metaphysical interpretation. And so this is one of the stories that he reviewed in the back of the book. And so I had a really great time with this discussion group, and we talked all about it. And so what I wanted to share with you is the lessons that we've learned from that discussion. It was just a beautiful experience, and now this has become one of my favorite stories in the Bible. But the question that I want to pose to you is that, can you hear this story in a new way? Okay. So on Wednesday nights, I want to put a plug in for our Wednesday night study group. So we've been meeting and going through page by page of the Science of Mind textbook for the last 5 years. And so we're going to wrap up the Science of Mind textbook probably end of October, maybe 1st of November. And then we're going to take a little break. And then starting in January, we're going to be studying Living the Science of Mind. And so we're going to be doing the same thing, and that's going to take us about 2.5 years to do that. So if you're thinking about it, you have plenty of time to kind of jump in or jump out. There is reading, but it's not required. You can join the call and the conversation and join in on the conversation. So it's every Wednesday night, and it's from 6 to 7 o'clock. So the prodigal son is the story of these 2 boys, and they go on this separate path. So one boy stays home, and the other boy leaves home, and he goes out and lives his life, and then eventually he returns home, and when he returns home, his father, of course, welcomes him back home. So in the story, we can almost label or judge the good son and the bad son. Right? And so the way that I remember the story, the son that left home was the bad son. So let's see if we can view this story in a different way. So the metaphysical interpretation of the 2 boys is talking about the two states of consciousness, right? So we are always at choice. We're always at the freedom to choose, right? So every day of every moment of our lives, we are making a decision. So are we going down this path or are we going down that path? There's no right path, there's no wrong path. It's just a path that we choose to go down. But because we are choosing, we are open to the possibilities to experience good or evil. Okay? So the story is from the Bible. It's Luke 15, verses 11 through 32. And so I'm going to read some of the verses, and then I'm going to be discussing the metaphysical interpretation about that verse that Ernest Holmes shared with us in the book. So the story starts off, a certain man had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, "Give me the portion of my goods that falleth to me," and he divided unto them his living. So the father never questioned his son. He just said, "Yes, if you want it, I'm going to give it to you." And he gave it to them. So God is the same way. God only says yes to what we want. Life does not argue with us. Life does not say, "Hey, that may not be a good idea." It simply gives us what we want. If we choose to live from a place of lack, of unlove, of isolation, life says yes. If we choose to live a life of abundance, of well-being, of loving, and of giving, God says yes. God, life, says yes to all. So Ernest Holmes says, the universe gives us what we ask. Experience alone will teach us what is best to have. So life can only give us what we can accept. So what size of container are you bringing to the well of abundance, the well of possibilities? Do you bring a cup? Do you bring a bucket? So what size? What do you want to experience in life? So what I know is that I don't want to be the President of the United States. So I know that life is not going to support me to be the President of the United States, right? But what I do know is that I want to be a minister of this community. And I know that life supports me in that role. So thank you, Rod. So our life experiences is how we learn, grow, and know. When we understand that the law of cause and effect, when we learn to understand the law of cause and effect, we learn that we are responsible for our happiness. Life keeps giving us what we believe, never saying no. It's only when we say no or we change our thinking when that life starts to move in a different direction. So when I started in Science of Mind about 30 years ago, and I was introduced to Science of Mind in Denver, Colorado, I remember walking through those doors the first time, and I felt broken. I felt damaged. I was sexually abused when I was a child, and I believed I was damaged goods. So I started taking classes, and my perception of myself started to change. I no longer thought I was damaged goods, but I did think of myself as a survivor of child abuse. And I wore that title for a while. I actually felt empowered, and my shift in consciousness helped me to begin feeling worthy. And so I said yes to the call to ministry in 2010, and I kept taking classes. So I heard my call to ministry, and everybody, if you're a minister, you hear that call. So I heard the call to ministry actually when I was in college, and I actually even looked into becoming a priest at the time. But when I was going through that process of trying to decide what I wanted to do, feeling damaged and feeling not good enough, I kept on saying no to the call to ministry. So as I continued to take Science of Mind classes, I continued to learn and understand who I really was. And then in my self-mastery class that I took in Denver, Colorado, so when you take classes, just so everybody knows, you have a final project that you have to do, right? And so and it's not graded, just so you know, it's not graded. But anyways, it's based on the experience that you're experiencing. But my final project for that self-mastery class, I stood up in front of the class and I told everybody that I was saying yes to the call to ministry. And from that point on, I started taking classes to become a minister. And this is where I am today. Thank you. Sometimes it's weird how those emotions just come up, right? So, Sue, I feel your pain. So when I graduated and I became a minister, I gave up the title as a survivor of child abuse. The title felt small, and I felt like I was struggling with life. And spiritually, I started off as a victim. I was damaged goods. My spiritual consciousness expanded and deepened, and I felt I could survive this life. So I have a close friend in college who tried to commit suicide twice because of all the pain of her child abuse. When I completed ministerial school, my identity blew the doors off of the survivor title, and now my title is, I am a beautiful, individualized expression of God. I'm whole, perfect, and complete, just the way that I am. And I believe this about myself, and I believe it about each one of you. So life keeps saying yes to what I want, and the path continued to clear before me. My spiritual journey allowed me to release all my false beliefs about myself, being a damaged goods, being a survivor, to realizing and accepting my truth. I'm whole, perfect, and complete just the way that I am. So what path are you choosing right now? Is there anything that you want to change in your life? And what is holding you back? So the far country. So the story goes on as we're telling the story about the little boy leaving the home. And this is how it goes. It says, and not many days later, the young son gathered all together and took his journey into a far country. And there he wasted his substance with riotous living. Wow. I think we know who the bad son is. Right? So that riotous living just was rubbing me the wrong way. And so I looked up the riotous, and one of the definitions is out of control living. Right? So that son was living out of control living. But stop and think about it. So life is and can be messy. But we're learning who we are and why are we here. Right? When we first start learning something, right? When Vernice first started learning the bowls, when Rod first started learning the guitar, right? When we first start learning something, we're going to be wasteful. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to take risks. And even sometimes we may even hurt the people that we love. You know, another example of this is like an artist. If you've ever gone into an artist studio and an artist is, and some of you are artists, and you're painting, they're painting something or they're sculpturing something or they're making some kind of art, that art studio can get very, very messy. But at the end, when they finish whatever they're making, it turns into a beautiful piece of art. So we are an artist creating our masterpiece on the canvas of life. So our life is about the journey, not the destination. We all know what the destination is. So how many of us are enjoying the ride and learning and growing? So I want to give you another example of riotous cooking. So Mark and I both enjoy cooking, but when Mark cooks, it is riotous cooking. I'm sorry. When I've learned to stay out of the kitchen when he's cooking. He uses every counter space in the kitchen. Sometimes he has cabinet doors open, drawers open, and it is, it's a danger zone. I'll just say that for me anyways. So I stay out of the kitchen. However, when he finishes cooking dinner, we sit down at the table to eat. The kitchen is all cleaned up, and the meal is wonderful. And he created something beautiful, and it's always delicious. So I don't want to focus on the riotous living because we know that's how we learn and we grow. But let's focus on the meaning of far country. So the metaphysical interpretation of far country is we consciously feel separated from God, from that loving energy. So I have many definitions of my God, my relationship to God, and one of them is a father figure. So I look at as God as a father figure to me that's comforting me, it's my safety net. I feel secure. I feel, strong because he's with me. I look at God as being a creative energy that I can create whatever I need to create because he is within me creating, right? And so I look at that creative energy, and I also look at that loving energy, right? So that God is that loving energy that propels life forward, right? So when we feel separated from God, that is that experience of that far country. And you can see in the picture here, the guy's jumping over that separation, that gap between ourselves, that make-believe gap that we have between ourselves and between God. So how many times do we feel separated from God? We feel like when we're on our own, right? So we start to isolate ourselves and back away from our families and our friends. Or how about when we're building our life and we're working on a career and we're really busy with career, and then we decide that our spirituality and our spiritual practice isn't important anymore? Or how about if we fall ill and we're sick and we become afraid and we're hurting or we're in pain or we're scared, and what do? We withdraw. Or when we're ending a relationship, how many times have we ended a relationship and then we withdrew from life, from God? So God is always present. We just forget. We feel alone and separated from that eternal good. So before I started taking Science of Mind classes, I thought God was never present in my life. And that's not a bad thing. It's just that I didn't have a relationship with God. I knew of God, but God wasn't around, and that was okay. I was doing my thing, he was doing his thing, and everything was good, right? But as I started taking classes, I started deepening my spirituality. And then I could see God present in some of my situations, in some of my activities, and some of the people that I met. And the reason why I said I could see God sometimes is because there's other times where I didn't want to see God. When I was going out on Friday or Saturday night with my friends, I didn't want God coming with me. I wanted him to stay home. Right? So that's those situations where I didn't see God because I didn't want to see God. Right? But as I continued on my spiritual path and my spiritual practice, I realized and accepted that God is always present. There's no place where God is not. We cannot live outside of life. So God is always there with us. So Ernest Holmes says, when one separates himself from the divine fire, he becomes an isolated spark. We are strong only when we unite with life. As soon as our consciousness is detached from spiritual wholeness, we can no longer draw from that inexhaustible reservoir of eternal existence. We become exhausted. I love that phrase, inexhaustible reservoir of eternal existence. That's the loving energy that I'm talking about, being tapped into that. So this is one of the reasons why I come to church every Sunday, to tap into that source of life, to get plugged back in, to feel the love of our community, right? To remember that I'm not alone. I remember that I am part of something greater than I am, and I am God expressing. So Ernest Holmes says it is only as we live in conscious union with Spirit and consciously let it work through us that we really live. When we're in the flow of life, we feel loved, we feel supported, and we feel guided. As we are part of that divine flame and draw from the inexhaustible reservoir. The fallen man. Now this is where the story gets a little juicy. So in this story, they're talking about the son that left. He said the prodigal son began to be in want, and he went and joined himself with a citizen of the country, and he sent himself into the fields and to feed the swine. This represents the lowest point of the son's life. Feeding the pigs is one of those lowest points that someone can experience back in those days. The Jews did not consider the meat of a swine as lawful food to eat. So being with the pigs represented that the boy hit rock bottom. But look at those pigs. How can they resemble a low point? Right? So we've learned that pot-bellied pigs are very sweet and they can be good companions. And this is a simple example how we've evolved, right? Now we see pigs as being a companion in our life. So when we go through a challenge, it's not a judgment, but an effect. This is how we experience life, and we learn and we grow. So Ernest Holmes says, most of us seek the cause in the effect and unknowingly put the cart before the horse, not realizing that the flower is already in the seed, that the effects must follow the causes. So let me say that again. Most of us seek the cause in the effect and unwillingly put the cart before the horse, not realizing that the flower is already in the seed and that the effects must follow the causes. Everything begins with cause and consciousness. We are creating our joy and we are creating our pain. The flower is in the seed. Everything that we need to know is already within us. Allow your intuition, your inner guidance to guide you. Sometimes we have to fall, feel uncomfortable, even experience pain to help us remember our truth. Remember, God only says yes to what we want. We are the life that we live. If you're wanting something right now, contemplate where you are consciously around this want. Remember that life can only do for you what it can do through you. So the Great Awakening. So I love this image of a caterpillar transforming into a butterfly. This is one of my favorite images, all-time images, and I use this a lot in prayer. It reminds me of divine intelligence, of creativity, and possibilities. The image empowers me. So I don't know how that caterpillar changes into a butterfly, but what I do know is that divine intelligence is within me. So in the story, Jesus says that when he's talking about the boy again that left, he said, when he came to himself, he said, how many hired servants of my father's have bread enough and to spare, and I perish with hunger? When we wake up consciously and we remember our truth, life begins to change. We begin to see that life is supporting us and not against us. We stay open to the possibilities and we realize that we're part of something greater. Life is always evolving and expressing from itself. So Ernest Holmes says, indeed, the whole endeavor of mankind is to return home to the Father's house. So our spiritual journey through life is to help us remember our truth. All the experiences that we experience, all the people that we meet serve one purpose, to remind us of our truth. So live a riotous life. Be messy. Make mistakes. And be gentle with yourself. We get to choose the life that we want to experience, so learn, grow, and make wiser choices. And remember, you're never alone. God is present in every situation and every person that you meet. It is only when we live in conscious union with Spirit are we really living. And so next week, we'll learn about the rest of the story. And so it is. So as we allow ourselves to stay open and aware of the loving energy that is present in our life right here and right now. That creative expression that creates all life. It creates all the colors of the flowers, all the different birds in the sky, all the insects on the planet. That creativity, that creative energy is in us. We experience it. We express it. We are a part of it. We allow ourselves to remember the truth that we are part of it. We are that individualized expression of God. And we are whole, perfect, and complete just the way we are. We are beautiful expressions, each one of us unique and expressing life in our own way. And the reason why we are here is because life needs us. Life needs to be expressed through our life, only the way that we can express life. So we are painting that canvas of life with our colors. We're adding our colors to it, and it's a beautiful masterpiece. Sometimes looking messy, sometimes looking confusing, sometimes wasteful. But what I know is that life evolves in one direction, and so that we are learning and growing and choosing wisely as we move through life. Because we are always supported and we're always guided by that divine wisdom. So just like this caterpillar in this image that transforms into this beautiful, beautiful butterfly, we individually are always transforming into greater, beautiful, more expressions of life itself. So I say we just simply open ourselves up and say yes to life, say yes to expressing, and say yes to being who we are, that beautiful individual expression. So I'm grateful to know this truth of who we are. I'm grateful for our community as we come together to support each other on our journey called life. And I'm grateful for these teachings to help me navigate through life and live life fully and experiencing life full of joy, full of love, full of creativity, and full of abundance. And so I know that my life, your life, all life expresses God, all in its own unique ways, and it's perfect in its unique ways. So I simply say yes, release these words into the law, knowing it's all good because it's all God. And together we say, and so it is.
Grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. I am so grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. Everywhere I look and every face I see is love reflected, shining back to me. I just give thanks for all these simple things, the joy and peace that gratitude brings. That's why I'm grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. I am so grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have.
Thank you, Bradford. Thank you, Reverend Clyde. That was fabulous, and I look forward to next week. I look forward to that. The rest of the story. Who was that? Paul Harvey. Then the rest. Was it Paul Harvey? And the rest of the story. So we'll hear the rest of the story next week. I don't know about you, but I want to come and hear the rest of the story. So now it is time for giving and receiving, and we do not pass the plate any longer, but we have a box at the back of the sanctuary. One as we enter into Papke Hall, and one out at in the bookstore. So please repeat with me the giving affirmation. I live in a consciousness of good. Divine love blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. And so it is. And please be sure to come for a quick snack and then come back and participate in the healing, the sound healing. It will be extraordinary, I promise you.
Please rise for our last song. To be alive.
All right. Thank you, Rod. So one more thing I forgot to share with you guys. We'll be taking love offerings, so we'll have a basket up here for cash. If you want to use a credit card, Kay, can you help with the credit card? So Kay will help with credit cards. Please join us after service. If you don't have the money to pay right now, still please plan on joining. It's going to be a really beautiful experience. So let's say our closing affirmation together. So repeat after me. I live riotously.
I live riotously.
Because I am God expressing. And so it is.